Hi guys, I'm here to tell you how to stress test or torture your Windows Server 2012. It's very important to do this test before activating your server. If there's one component that is as important, it's for sure the CPU. If it survives this test without crashing or going up to extreme CPU temperatures, you can be sure that your Windows Server is stable and won't crash during an intense task. I prefer using PRIME95, that's the most used stress testing tool for a CPU, and is now the facto standard for stress tests. That's what we are going to focus on now. I have my own server made in a virtual machine. As I work on a Mac, you can also do this in a virtual machine. You do need internet connection for this, so fix that before you begin. I'm going to start setting everything up. You will need to download iStat menu or any temperature monitoring device for your MacBook, because the issue here is that you can see the temperatures in the virtual machine. But I will show you it anyway. You sure will need it. Be sure to check the CPU temperatures from time to time. You can easily find bugs by just doing that. If you made some changes and start seeing your CPU temperature rising very high, you will see fast enough that something is not going right. Also, if you want to change the clock speed or overclock your PC or server, you will need to monitor it for a while before running it. I had an issue with finding free software to monitor your temperature on a Mac because everything in the App Store is apparently paying. I will only use the GPU and CPU here, my memory and sensor for the temperature. You can easily just check it on. Time and battery, we don't need that. We already have that, so here you can see the temperature. You probably already seen that my temperatures are extremely high. Normally, temperature shouldn't rise above 72 degrees. Normally, your PC should shut off if it hits too high. Also, Intel can have temperatures up to 100 degrees before components start to melt. Of course, if your CPU is running too high, the components around it can handle this heat and melt. Small components that will damage your PC permanently. So always be alert while doing this. This can and take your time. I did my research, and apparently I'm not the only one with this issue that my temperatures are way too high. That's something normal for a MacBook. Also, I am recording and having my VirtualBox running, but still you can see that my CPU isn't doing much of work. Now for your virtual machine, VirtualBox uses the same clock speed as your laptop or PC of everything you work on. Mine is 2.2 gigahertz. I use VirtualBox for my server. So the server is already running. You can start download your programs and everything you need. The links will be down in the description box. Because I won't waste your time on downloading it right now. You're free to choose a site where you will download the software. Of course, you don't even have to use the same monitoring program. Just be sure to have one that works for you. You can also check your CPU usage in Task Manager. I will keep this open so I can double check everything that happens to my server during the test, and as I told you previously, my virtual machine uses the same CPU as my Mac. Now we're going to open CoreTemp that you normally already have downloaded. You will see the temperatures at the bottom of the screen. You also see that the temperature shows 0 degrees. On my Mac, I have the heat visible on my taskbar. You can see all the basic information just like the task manager, but let me show you for a second how handy this tool actually is. So let's go to the settings. Normally I don't change the first page. Enable plugins is already checked. Although I don't have any plugins, but I let it check just in case. If you check Start Core Temp with Windows, the tool will automatically start up when you log in. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't find it very handy with random tools start to open. I like a clean startup. The other two, enable login on startup and allow multiple Core Temp instance, is not for any use for me. In display, you can change how the heat shows up in the taskbar, but I won't go into detail with that. You can change it all up to your preference. I do not feel the need to do that. In the notification area, You can also choose what info pops up in the taskbar. I use it if I have more than one CPU, because the CPU will have mostly the same temperature. It is of no need to show all the temperatures. Also, it's handy to check off processor loads, so you can see when your processor is working. If you are doing nothing, it should be almost zero, so if you notice that it is overworking, you can scan for the problem a lot faster, because you don't check your processor load that often to be real. You can now click on OK. Go to Options and select Overheat Protection. Enable Overheat Protection. Here you can set a warning when the temperature goes above a certain degree. I will set it to 60 degrees. So I will have left enough time to find the source of the problem before my computer will shut down. Choose the way the notification. With the balloon pop-up, you will get a message at the taskbar, and with the flash, you will see the temperature flashing in the taskbar. You also can set the shutdown option after a certain time, after detecting the critical temperature. I'm not going to do that. Now we're going to start with PRIME95. Download PRIME95, check if your system is 64, 32-bit, and download the 64-bit. Be sure to shut down all the useless programs you have on. I only have my task manager, core temp, and my server running. So I'm going to open PRIME95. PRIME95 puts your processor through a very rigorous math test and immediately checks your chip's answers for any mistakes. I forgot to say that if you will stress test with PRIME95, you better let it run for at least 24 hours, because then you will be sure that all the instabilities are catched. Also, PRIME95 often finds errors in the 16th or 20th hour of testing. Keep that in mind. If you are able to test longer, you should do that. Testing your computer is very important, so that you won't get surprised when things gets broken because you overload your PC. Also, if you get any errors in the first few hours, don't panic instantly. Try another program, of course not while running PRIME95, to see if you get the same error. PRIME95 can have some small errors. So you'll get this screen. Normally this window will pop up by itself. If not, you just go to Option and Torture Test. The Torture Test window presents you with 3 ready-made tests and an option to create a custom one. So the obvious question is, which test should you run? The answer depends on what you're trying to do. First, let's look at the kind of tests which are available. The small FFTs stands for the Fast Fourier Transform, is the one we will use to test the CPU. This test is the heaviest for your CPU. It's not going to test your memory, it's not going to do much than only test your CPU, but it does stress your motherboard. So if there is something wrong with the clock on your CPU or your mobile, or your voltages are not right, this test will show you this quick. As I only have one thread, I won't be able to change that. Normally you should be able to change it if you want to test less threads than you got. I will change my CPU to 4. I can go up to 8 cores. Changing your cores on a virtual machine is very easy. I will show you this quick. You go to the settings in VirtualBox, go to the system and processor, and here you choose how many cores you want. The normal standard is 4, you can go up more, depends on what you need. I will do this fast and then restart again. So now you can see that the number of torture test threads to run are up to 4. If you choose the in place large FFTs test, it tests the CPU even more and a little bit of RAM. Blend test is for the RAM. You can also make a custom test, change up the FFTs and the RAM. Be sure about your numbers before you start to do this test. So let's run the small FFT test by just pressing OK. Go look in the task manager. You see that the CPU is working 100%. Speed doesn't change, no errors appear, that looks fine, but I noticed that my Mac detects temperature of 99 degrees, so it lays a lot of pressure on my Mac also. If no errors come up in the first half hour, you can let it run for another 24 hours. Keep an eye on the heat. Be sure to stop the test if you get the risk to overheat. You can even try to run the large FFTs for even more pressure for the CPU. I'm going to stop it now.